Dan skelle, Good morning, Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and a few reasonably brave gentlemen. A very warm welcome, a fáilte from Accenture. I'm Alistair Blair, the Country Managing Director of Accenture, and to say that I'm thrilled to see so many people here today would be certainly an understatement. First of all, I have to thank our wonderful musicians, Tara Bracken, Tom Durley, and the world champion baron player, Amy Farrell-Courtney. So maybe just one more round of applause. And what about our own dearly beloved Monica Donlan? A founder member, as many of you know, a founder member of Anuna, starting in the year I joined Accenture, but we won't go back quite that far. I'm delighted Monica was promoted to Managing Director Partner in our business in December. I'm equally delighted that 4 of the 6 people we promoted were women, a strong statement that reflects the performance of our female group. Today is interesting on so many fronts. Today we will run as Accenture 165 events in 40 countries. I'm equally thrilled that Ireland has been chosen for a live webcast, so keep clapping, you're all on, as they say. And if anybody wants to just peep in and have a look later on in the day, log on to www.accenture.com, listen, learn, lead, where you'll hear our New York office trying to improve on what we're doing. And for those of you on Twitter, I'm told already we're trending, so for those of you on Twitter, it's hashtag IWDCCD. I tweeted at 7:05 in a rather groggy state, so there you go. Today is a very important day for Accenture. It always is. It has been for the last 11 years. As the new country managing director, this agenda around diversity and inclusion is at the heart of everything we do as a business. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for our people. And you have my absolute commitment that it will remain at the heart of my agenda during my tenure. I'm proud of our statistics, but statistics only tell part of the story. We will have some 1,800 people working in Accenture by the end of this year. Just 50% of those will be female. Our managing director partner level is just over 30%. Sounds good, but we have a ways to go. At senior manager, it's 40%, and at manager, it's 50%. This isn't some strange happenstance of fortune, some kind of thing that dropped from the sky. This was a very conscious decision by the leadership team and Accenture in true form, but also by my predecessor, Mark Ryan, who said 10 years ago, we need to address this issue. So whilst we're proud of it, the statistics only tell one part of the story. And as Ireland continues to recover, it is undoubtedly true that the female agenda, so to speak, and ensuring we have balance and equality in the workforce remains at the front and centre of that. We need the skills to succeed, another very great passion of our business. And that's across everything. We need women in the heart and at the centre of every part of our talent pool, whether in academia, in multinationals, in government, and beyond. And I think we as a nation need to address the issue of STEM once and for all. And I believe that's a relentless task as opposed to something that will be sorted, obviously, in a few short months or years. I was very struck by some comments on the radio this morning where the point was very clearly made that sustainable, successful businesses have equality at their heart. Sustainable, successful businesses. This is not about a one-off play. We need equality, diversity, and inclusion at the centre of everything that we do. I'm looking forward to sitting down very shortly. I'm sure you're looking forward to me sitting down very shortly too. But at the heart, and I believe the way we run our business has always been based around role models. Role models are the people you can look at and say, I'd really kind of like to be like that person. We have a panoply of role models here for you today to listen, to learn, and to lead and learn from. Please enjoy the day. I believe, not having been here, there were only 250 people at the last event I attended 5 years ago. I spent the preceding 4 years working in London. Enjoy the day. Listen, learn, lead. I'm delighted to hand over to somebody I consider a role model for everybody in our business, not just the females, but everybody in our business, somebody who stands out as a STEM role model, as a leadership role model, somebody I lean on to her eternal detriment every day for advice and guidance. Please welcome to the stage the leader of our Accent on Women programme, Paula Neary.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are all very welcome here this morning to the Convention Centre to celebrate International Women's Day. I didn't think we could do it. We said last year we wouldn't go any bigger, but we did. And it just shows you really the demand there is to mark IWD. So from up here, you're all looking fabulous. So I think you should give yourselves a round of applause for getting here so early, our male colleagues included. 2 years ago, we talked about Let's Get Digital, how we needed to ride the digital wave. How's that going for us now? How are we coping? How are we leading? And what are the opportunities it has brought? We are going to bring that to life to you this morning by encouraging you to think big, make bold moves, and be brave to step up as leaders in this new connected world. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to our charity partner this morning, Social Entrepreneurs Ireland, who want us to think big, act now, and change Ireland. Lucy Masterson, the Head of Development at Social Entrepreneurs Ireland, will be joining us later and tell us how we can actually all get involved in that and support people who are doing it every day. Also this morning, along with over 400 plus Accenture colleagues, over 600 plus clients and friends of Accenture and our global audience, I'd like to extend a huge warm welcome to our students here this morning. We have girls from schools, all over 6 schools in Dublin, so a huge welcome and round of applause for our girls here this morning. As we return to economic growth, Accenture wants to celebrate the talent that we have in Ireland and discuss how we can work together to support each other to push the boundaries, have bold ambition, and think big. Starting your own company used to be a long, hard slog. It could take months, years even. Today, you can go from initial concept to a global product in just months. This is the world of the startup, high potential startup community. It's an exciting place, full of possibility, where technology is pushing the boundaries. And to enable that opportunity, the startup community needs a very connected ecosystem, and that is where we can all help to support it. Large organizations are engaging directly with startups to innovate. Accenture launched the FinTech Innovation Lab last October in partnership with Enterprise Ireland. That's a 12-week accelerator program where we are looking to drive technology innovation in the financial services industry. It's something we have done successfully in London and New York. The beauty of the accelerator is that it's a two-way process. So the startup gets all the experience and know-how of the large financial services organization, and the large organization gets the new technology and also gets to experience the workshops, the showcase sessions, the sort of fast-paced innovative thinking from the startup, and that comes to their door. Organizations that fail to do this will be left behind. Digital is moving at such a pace. We just can't ignore it. And we as women, we need to step up as leaders. We need to be the drivers of change and bring innovation to the organizations we work in. We will be discussing how startups are doing that today in Ireland and showcasing some of the phenomenal female talent that we have in the startup community later this morning. The 30% Club recently launched in Ireland. It's a global movement about getting better gender diversity in business. Accenture are a supporter of the club, and I'm personally delighted to be a member of their steering committee. We're working with business leaders in Ireland to increase the proportion of women at board level and across the senior executive levels to 30% by 2020. Research launched by the UK's 30% Club recently talked about the myth that women don't get to the top because they lack confidence. What the research actually showed that it's our risk alertedness and how we're grounded in reality. We're brutally honest with when it comes to assessing our skills and our capabilities to go forward to an unfamiliar challenge. Sound familiar? Not believing you have the skills and capability to sort of go up to that next level. while our male counterparts are sort of waiting there ready to sign the contract. So we're delighted to have an expert in this field, Natasha Fennell, with us later this morning, and she'll talk about the art of confidence, which will hopefully inspire us all to be less self-critical and to make that leap. Every year, as part of our International Women's Day celebration, we launch some global research. This year we asked, what are the opportunities and challenges of working in this hyper-connected workplace for employees and their organisations? Digital is changing everything, and new technologies bring both opportunity and challenge. There will be more female chief technology officers in the future. More companies than ever are preparing women for senior management positions, and companies are investing in new technologies to enable their employees collaborate, innovate, and engage. But the research also tells us that it's more difficult to listen in the digital workplace. Multitasking enables you to do so much more, but can too many distractions cause you to be less focused, do less well at your job? 4 out of 5 people on conference calls are multitasking. They're on email, instant messaging, social media. The only people who are actually really listening, it showed, are the people who are talking on the call or people who actually need something from it. I'm glad I'm not the only person who does that. The research also tells us that we are learning more on the job than formal training, but with all the information coming at us, are we facing information overload? And how do we keep up with the constantly evolving technology? And what used to be an open door policy is now always on, anytime, anywhere policy. So if we're always available, how do we find the time and space to lead? We're pioneers of this digital age, and we have to be the first people to work out how to be successful in that. How do we set up a culture that you're accessible, but you're not overextended, where your outcomes are measured, not your presenteeism, and where just lots of information doesn't necessarily mean learning? What programs and structures can we set up to encourage women to take on new responsibilities, continue learning, and support and mentor others? How we have effectively done this in Accenture is through our Accent in Women programme. Our programme supports women from recruitment through their development, progression, promotion, training, and maternity. It provides the opportunity for women to learn, to network, to be mentored, be sponsored, and it provides all the support of a true community at the critical moments when they're needed. Sometimes that's just a shoulder to lean on when you have those career wobbly moments, because guess what? This is hard. It's very real, it's very human, and it works. I know this because I've been through it myself and I rely on it every day. Role models are also hugely important. They show us the art of the possible. I know without the male and female role models I have had in my career, influenced my career, I wouldn't be where I am. And in Ireland we have a huge number of role models, and I'm delighted that this morning we have a number of leaders with us who are going to share their personal stories with you of how they've been successful and how they have led in a connected world. We're very lucky once again to have Keelan Shanley from RTE, who is going to facilitate our leaders panel discussion. So please join me in welcoming Keelan and our leaders onto the stage: Minister Frances Fitzgerald, Fionnuala Meehan, Danielle Ryan, Laura McGahey, and Anne O'Leary.
Delighted to be here. We heard Paula there speaking about women having to step up as leaders, and I'm joined now by 5 women who have certainly done that, and I suppose are here, as Paula says, to share a little of how they have done what they've done and hopefully give us all a bit of advice as well. So I'd like to introduce you to our panel. First of all, Minister Frances Fitzgerald, the most senior female politician in Ireland, Minister for Justice and Equality. Delighted you could make it along this morning, Minister. Excuse me. Also joined by Anne O'Leary, the CEO of Vodafone Ireland, by Laura McGahey, who is MD of MCO Projects and who's also the Executive Chair of Irish Design 2015. Joined also by Danielle Ryan, who is CEO of the Rhodes Group, and I know I was looking at your perfumes outside, Danielle, so you can all see what Danielle does. And also by Fionnuala Meehan, the Director of Sales with Google. You're all extremely welcome here this morning. We were talking a little before we came out, and what were the things that our panel would find most interesting. We thought we might start with the idea of resilience, that fear of failure that can often stop women from taking risks. As Paula was saying, that women can be very risk averse. And Minister, I think there's no better place than to start with the new. I mean, as the most senior politician in the land now, it hasn't been an easy road. I mean, you were in the Dáil for 10 years, you lost your seat, and now you've come back to this position. How did you keep on going after that?
Well, you talk about resilience. It's a really important trait, I think. And I suppose it's about pursuing your interests as well, and knowing that if things go wrong or you have disappointments, and let's face it, life is full of ups and downs. In families, you often have to cope with illness. In business, there can be disappointments, same in politics. And I started out doing a social science degree and working in social work. And one of the things I learned about what helps children to cope is this trait called resilience. And I think we all have resilience, and it's something you need to build up internally, and it helps you to cope and continue and see the longer term picture. And I suppose resilience can be developed. I don't think it's necessarily...
Something you can learn.
I think it's something you can build and develop. I think it's helped by talking to people who understand your business, by having good mentors, by sharing, having women who are great at finding friends to share with. That's important. But I think it's equally important to talk to people who know the business that you want to be in. And that all helps build resilience. So it's important, I think, for us as women to think about resilience and going forward, because there are disappointments, there are ups and downs, there are challenges if you're in a career where you're in a minority, if there aren't so many women at the top of whatever business you're in, maybe the role models aren't there. So building that resilience in yourself, I think it's one of the things that helps a lot.
Absolutely. Fionnuala, we were speaking earlier as well about handling resilience in younger women who are working to you, that almost that we have to learn to be criticised, we have to learn to deal with failure sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, if I look back at my career, it's probably been, a litany of failures that I've learned from really well, right? But I mean, you learn the most when you try something and you go outside your comfort zone and you fail and you go back and say, well, wow, what did I do there? And you actually ask people, what could I have done better? And so I think the mixture of kind of taking risks, and then, being able to deal with failure when things don't go your way are incredibly important leadership traits. And really, as a leader, people are looking to you when things go wrong. That's when you really prove yourself. And the team that I lead at Google, it's a team of graduates, right? I mean, it's often their first job out of college. And a lot of what we have to do as people managers is actually help them understand maybe when they haven't had a great quarter and the reason for that. And that goes for men and women. And that's okay. And actually to take that feedback constructively and kind of think, okay, well, what can I learn from that? And what are the hard lessons that I'm taking away? And I think interestingly in the millennial generation, I think they're highly motivated and want to do things that matter. But everybody has to understand that leadership is really about going outside your comfort zone and learning from failures.
Laura, you have an insight in this area too.
Well, I think it's interesting we talk about failure and we use the word failure, but actually if we think of failure in a different way and say experimentation or innovation, and that everything along somebody's career path, if it is a career path, is just a process evolving, and that we're all moving, and developing, and that we don't consider setbacks either personally or we don't consider them as failure, but we consider them as a good learning experience.
You mentioned there the whole idea of having a career path. I mean, to look at the five of you in quite stellar positions. I mean, Anne, can I ask you, did you have a career path? Did you decide, listen, I'm going to go to a large corporation and I'm going to go straight to the top?
Probably not, to be honest. I'd like to say I did. But no, really for me, work was about being at my best and performing at my best and being really open to learning and developing. And with that, opportunities came. So I often say to people, you know, you can have people that are really ambitious and all they're talking about is their next job and I'm going to get to the top, and you're kind of saying, well, hold on a second. You're in a role, you need to outperform in that role. You need to be in the moment of the job and prove that you can do it, see what you can learn, but be open, be curious, be open to opportunities, have sponsors, network. You know, the typical woman thing about being in the corner, working really hard, thinking you'll be recognised does not work. You know, you need to work hard, you need to deliver great outcomes, but you need to be collaborative, you need to share your success.
And how do you do that? I mean, because it is true, I'm very familiar with it as well, people working doubly hard in the corner and never getting recognition.
And thinking there'll be a divine inspiration, that they'll know that Mary in the corner is doing wonderful work. The fact is, even at my level now as CEO, we discuss people, we discuss their talent, their potential, their performance. If I don't know them, I can't give input. So you need to ensure that the people that make decisions about your career know you. It's very simple. And the ideal way to do it is through the work you do. So you're working on some project or you're involved in something. So, you know, you get them involved, you share it. Or if not, maybe something outside your role. It could be CSR activity, it could be additional projects, it could be getting involved in something cross-functional. But, you know, people say, you know, do you know Julia? We think she's great. It's great for me to say, well, actually, I heard Julia speak, or I met her, and I was really impressed. So it's little things about who's going to decide my rating at the end of the year, my next role, who's going to be involved in the big growth area of the company and are going to be looking for great talent and staff. So you need to shine a bit in an authentic way and in a real way. And I think all of us as leaders are looking for great people. You know, we're always looking for the next talented person. So shine, share, collaborate for the good of the company and for yourself. And I think you will get rewarded and you will get promoted.
Just
I
step
think
up, don't
it
be
does
afraid.
take courage, you know. I mean, that moment when you think, will I speak or won't I? You know, will I put my idea forward or won't I? So I think that moment where you might hold back, and then you find 5 minutes later somebody else says what you were thinking.
Yeah. And getting a round
ju-
of applause.
Yes, exactly. Just, you know, it does take courage and it means having a voice. And I think that concept, and it's a very, if you like, traditional one from a kind of feminist point of view, having the voice, I think that applies very much, wherever you are, just taking that next step. And I very much agree with the point about career. I certainly didn't have any idea when I started out.
I'm going to be a minister.
Certainly not, or a TD. But I enjoyed every part of the various roles and jobs I had. And that's really critical, I think, to really make the very best and where you are at a particular moment. And then opportunities arise, and then you're in a place where you can take them.
Danielle, to bring you in here, I mean, on that idea of speaking up, I think you had very particular advantages, but also disadvantages in your own career, and that you were extremely young, you were dealing with boards of older men in RADA and Trinity, when you could quite easily have been dismissed at that age as, well, she's an heiress, she's an actress, what is she doing here? Talk to us a little about how you dealt with that.
Yeah, I guess you have to be aware of your situation and what you're dealing with, and I think to fool yourself into or comfort yourself saying, oh no, they don't think that, or you know, you have to be very honest with what the situation is. And then something that I live by with business and personally is that I always like to be incredibly prepared for everything, and this is just practical elements of it. But so I felt confident, and I always didn't feel the need to have to speak up actually all the time, because I knew that when I was to be asked, I was comfortable that I knew everything that I wanted to speak about in that way. So for me, knowing what I was talking about essentially was absolute key. Even if it was a brand new thing, you know, you do your homework and you figure it out and you're prepared for the next day, and then you have confidence in yourself, and you can calm into yourself a little bit and say, no, it's okay. I'm here with the rest of you.
One thing you said to me, which I thought was very interesting, is, you know, don't get panicked, don't fill the silences, don't feel you have to keep talking all the time, because that's something I've observed in people that women can often do. Laura, you're nodding along to that one.
Well, no, I just think it's very, very easy to be the one to actually step in and say something when there is a silence. And you're absolutely right, not feeling the need to actually do that and just holding back a little bit, as you're saying, is a really important trait, and knowing when to chip in and when not to chip in.
Danielle talks about homework. Women are brilliant at homework.
Yeah.
We really, I do notice that I think we tend to, if anything, probably over-prepare, you know, and I think that goes back maybe to confidence as well. I mean, I would be very much like Danielle, you know, that really
Think it through.
go through your subject, know what you're talking about, all the I's, dot the I's, cross the T's,
Yeah.
and perhaps sometimes even too much.
Yeah, I think you
You
need to
know?
be careful of that, this perfection streak,
Yes.
because the higher up you go in organisations, the amount of work and the quantity, so you can't
Exactly.
prepare or you're going to end out exhausted. You know, you can't, it's not going to be perfect. You kind of have to trust that you know, after years of experience, you know your gig. And you don't have to prepare every line and every word. So I've really worked on that, because you have to balance the downtime, and you need to get your sleep and your rest. You need to be emotionally fit, mentally fit to be at your best. You know, you need to get your hours sleep so you wake up in the morning refreshed. So we talk a lot in Vodafone about well-being, and I think it's particularly for women. That, you know, you need to take your time out, whether it's your walk or your yoga. You need to eat well, you need to exercise so you sleep well, so, and that you have that balance. So, you know, if you're prepping and swatting till 12 or 1 in the morning, you know, not sleeping well because you're worried. I hear a lot about women, I worry and I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like going, oh dear God, it's just not worth it. So what are the techniques that you're going to learn to help you sleep? Because you'll perform better and you'll be at your best, certainly during the crises, when as a leader you're expected to be emotionally stable, rational, practical, and making the right decisions. So I think it's something that we as women have to manage, and I manage, because I can't afford to get sick.
So not just the study, you've got to look after
Oh
yourself
no,
as well.
you have to
it's
be
the
able to think
well-being
well.
and the health, and mental health, not just physical health. And how do you compartmentalise things, not worry. Worry is the biggest waste of negative energy, I believe. You know, it's needless. And I'm really good at just letting it all go. So you're just not stressed. But I think people need to think about how they do that.
Yeah, it's not always
No,
easy.
I know that.
From my own
Sleep.
point of view. Sleep, okay, got it. Fionnuala, if I can ask you, I mean, you're working in Google. It's an area, I think many of the audience will be interested in the area of science and technology, and the ongoing problems that we have globally with bringing women into the area. We saw Hillary Clinton speaking about it recently at Silicon Valley. Why is that, do you think? Why are women still not stepping into that field?
So I wish there was a simple answer, but I think there's probably 3 parts to it. I think, you know, if we look at the current representation of women in technology companies, it's not good enough, right? It's not where it needs to be. And Google issued its diversity stats last year, and many other technology companies have followed. So, you know, 20% of our leadership and 30% of our staff. Now it's a little bit better in the non-tech side, but it's nowhere where it needs to be. And I think there, you know, you need to look at role models, and we also focus on unconscious bias. You know, we all have biases and perceptions, and it can almost happen in a cumulative way that people hire in their own image, they promote in their own image, and they maybe have people in their team that they're comfortable with rather than looking for diverse styles, etc. So I think, you know, you need to measure it and be conscious of it in terms of what you have. Then I think you need a pipeline then also of women coming into technology. Technology is about products. I mean, who's using products? Women are using products. So we need more graduates. We definitely need more female tech graduates. But we also need more women looking at tech companies and thinking, you know, I could work there. That's a place where I could work. Because it's not all a techie, geeky environment. You know, I'm in sales, right? And we've loads of women in sales, and we need more women in sales. So it's about those perceptions as well. So that's an important pipeline. But then even one step further back, we need junior and we need kids at junior cycle and senior cycle really thinking about careers in technology, but also things like computer sciences, coding, not just as skills for technology jobs, but for any job. Because coding is like English was. I mean, to English, to history and geography, you have to be good at English to be good at those. You know, in future, you know, in 10, 20 years' time, to be, you know, to express yourself creatively, to start your own business, you're going to need those skills. And so, you know, one fantastic way of doing that would be to get, you know, computer science as mandatory on the Leaving Cert curriculum, because that takes away all of that perception and bias. And we know young girls don't really see themselves as being good at this, right? This is one of the reasons they're not choosing it. We did a white paper last year. There's not enough social encouragement, and they actually don't believe that they have the skills. And of course they do. So one way of mitigating that is to actually make it mandatory and put it on the senior cycle. So I think there's many layers, you know, we need to address
It's a really
it in many
interesting
layers.
idea. Are you pushing for that? I mean, is that something you're
Yes,
discussing with the Department of
absolutely, because I
Education?
think it's we've got a module on the junior cycle at the moment, which is fantastic. But if you look at the UK, they have computing now is mandatory, computing module mandatory from 5 to 16 years. And we all know junior cycle choices are made in senior cycle, right? It's what you do in your Leaving Cert. And the mandatory part is really important for female students, because a lot of them will not opt into it themselves because of the lack of social encouragement and because of that perception that they have. So I feel really strongly that that is something we should be looking at, yeah.
It's interesting. And then I suppose, Minister, to ask you, you know, I would imagine when you walked into the Department of Justice that you didn't see many people like you in there, you know? I mean, it's like any government department, there's a lot more men than women. How difficult was it to walk in there as a woman and begin to make changes, to make it work in the way you wanted it to work?
Well, it was greatly helped, obviously, by my experience of being a Minister for Children and Youth Affairs beforehand, and the build-up, I suppose, to it, 20 years in the Dáil and doing legislation. But it was actually very exciting because it is such a broad department and so many areas that I've had a particular interest in over the years. You know, from family law to mediation to rehabilitation to legislation for families and children, a very broad area. So, but yes, at the beginning, of course, when you take on any new job, there is a whole, and I took it over at a particularly difficult time. So there was a transition period, but it was so busy. I think I had a report on my desk the next day that I had to take in and deal with the issues and go out and present an approach in relation to it after we had discussed it at Cabinet. So it was very challenging, but it was very interesting. And I think when you're interested and you're committed and you have supports, really the gender issue didn't come into it. I just got on with the job, really.
I mean, I suppose the perception of civil service would be that it's very top-down. I mean, when you went in there, did you feel, I would like to work differently. I would like to work maybe...
Yes, and I probably did, actually. I mean, one of the things I would have done immediately would be to work very collaboratively with the management team and continue engaging with the management team, which was mostly male, as it happened.
And was that difficult for them?
I'd say there was a bit of adjustment, all right. But people just get on with it then. When you're doing the work, when you're leading. I mean, we're talking here about leadership. And everybody has their own style of leadership. And I think women bring tremendous qualities to leadership.
What are they, do you think?
Oh, I think they're qualities of inclusiveness and collaboration, and not feeling that you have to have all the answers, but really seeking out, the experts in different areas, hearing what they have to say. My experience is that we're very good at that. I mean, that would be my own style of leadership.
That's really interesting. Not being afraid not to have the answer.
Yes.
Like to ask the question.
Absolutely. I mean, the skill in leadership, I think, a little bit like what Anne was saying, you can't know it all, but you know what you need to do. You know the priorities. You know the people you need to bring together to arrive at the best solution. And I think one of the things probably that puts people off politics is what they see as the very adversarial nature of it. It really turns a lot of women off. But when you think about the job of government and the job of the Dáil, the job of, the decisions you take in government, they're so important for the future of our society. So, and government, you take such important decisions. So we need to have that critical mass and that representation of women. And, well done to Accenture Ireland, because what Alistair was talking about that Accenture's had to do in relation to engage women and to make sure that women progress, that's precisely what needs to happen in politics, so that you get that energy and vitality of 50% of the population into politics and making those decisions that affect every family. So you've got to have the perspective of half of the population when those decisions are being taken.
And we're
it's
looking
a real
at
gap that we don't
quotas
have.
now. I mean, Laura, if I can bring you in on this, I mean, the quotas are coming in for the next election. 30% of candidates will be female. People are talking about it for quotas for boards around the country. What's your view on that?
Well, I'm not a quota person, to be quite honest. I mean, I see a lot of change coming about, and I wonder, is it through the education system? I wonder, is it because people are more confident as young people, and is it coming through naturally? So I'm not a huge quota fan. If I could go back to just something that you were saying there about, did the Minister notice when she was a woman going into a kind of a male, more male-dominated environment, let's say. I spent most of my life in construction, which is incredibly male, but to be perfectly honest, when I go into a meeting and possibly I'm the only woman leading the team in that construction environment, I don't first of all walk in and say, oh, I'm a woman, I'm now going into a meeting full of men. You know, you're going in as the person doing the job, and I don't think you are, certainly I'm not aware of being a woman in a male environment. I think you go in, you do your job, and you do it as well as you can.
Do you see differences in the way that women and men work?
No, I really reject any kind of stereotyping. I think that there are collaborative men, I think there are collaborative women, I think there are women who don't collaborate at all, and I think there are men who, you know, so I don't see it in black and white terms. I mean, I'm thrilled to be here with so many women in this room, and it's fantastic to have women leaders, but there are terrific men leaders as well.
So do you think diversity is important in gender? Do you think it is important in a company to have?
I do think it's important. I think it's important.
A fairly even mix.
Absolutely, but not necessarily just men and women. I think diversity in leadership styles. I think diversity in ethnic backgrounds. I think diversity in religion. I think all kinds of diversity makes for a richer environment and a richer organisation. So I don't see it in male female.
And what's your view on this?
Oh. I suppose I'm very, very strong on the gender diversity piece, because that is our issue. There are not enough women CEOs and high-level women. We are not breaking that glass ceiling quick enough. It is very simple, and there are very serious issues in companies around that, because the issue is all the research say that men do not think that women have the leadership qualities that men do to reach the CEO level. I mean, that is what the research says. So when we go for those CEO jobs, they talk about us differently, they rate us differently, and that is bias that's there, and it's a huge issue. So, you know, in Vodafone, we have 5 women directors and 2 men. So it's very unusual. We're very gender higher on the women at a senior level, but we have done an awful lot of work on that, and it is constant work, and it's on gender diversity, and not to call it anything else different. There are masculine traits and there are feminine traits, and we are different. You see it in women, little boys, little girls. We're different. It's fine. Let's celebrate it. But really realise that we need to make sure that the cultures and the environments we have in our companies are gender neutral, is what I call them, right? So you don't have any power, you know, top-down hierarchy, dictator type, or too much of the collaboration and influencing a network. So what you want to bring is the feminine skills and the masculine skills together to balance, to create an environment where all males and females can reach their potential and be successful. And in Vodafone, over the past 5 years, we've really worked on this, where reward, bonuses and performance is based on how you work, not just what you delivered. And how is, you might have reached your 5 million target, but if you left 10 dead bodies along the way, it's simply not acceptable. Were you collaborative? Did you bring people with you? You know, and, you know, I feel really strongly that we need men on board, which is absolutely key. We are successful if men get that we will achieve much better business results if we have gender balance. and gender-neutral behaviours where
Can I ask
everyone
you,
can be successful.
How did men react to this? I mean, you know, if a man reached his targets but maybe had not been entirely collaborative or
He
had...
gets the exact same feedback that you and I would, which is that is simply not the way it's done here. It's not about individual success, it's about team success. And together, bringing people in, getting advice, getting different ideas and perspectives is absolutely, whether you're a male or female, the way it works, the culture, the mindset and the behaviours. And we have really successful men and really successful women and a really successful business. I don't do it because I feel I owe it to the women of the world. I do it because siloed working is not successful. And as you probably know in Vodafone, we got rid of offices. So any sense of power, you know, is not physically there. I have no office, no directors there. We all hot desk. There's really cross-team collaboration because I see that there has to be. So those traits and behaviours are actually more women. But 80% of my customers are women that make decisions about mobile and fixed telephony in the home. So I need people that build products and market to females, not, you know, providing marketing campaigns with, you know, speed and power and men killing each other. You know, they need to be emotionally engaging campaigns that women will go, I like Vodafone, I'm going to buy products and services. So I just think getting men on board, though, is key. And you heard Alistair, it was wonderful to hear him as CEO saying it's a personal mission that I'm going to create a gender diverse workforce because he believes in delivering. But it's an ecosystem of activities. There's no one thing, is what I'm learning. Okay. And it's constant, and we must never give up because we need more of me in Ireland and in the world. I go in and most of the CEOs are men.
But Danielle, you're another female CEO here, and I know in your own company you've had gender diversity. You've a lot more women, actually, don't you?
More women,
men.
yeah.
How many? Give us the numbers there.
I think probably 30% men.
And
that wasn't on purpose. It wasn't my interest to have a female-led company. It just was the team that developed based on the skills that was required, and these were the best people for the job. And at this point now, you know, I never go into a project necessarily knowing how it's going to turn out, like probably everyone else. And I'm always extremely ambitious about what I want to do. And I think ambition can be seen as a sort of dirty word. And I don't see, I kind of keep my ambitions to myself, but I'm very clear about what they are. Because people don't really necessarily like that. So you have to find a team that work with you. But any of the business I've done internationally, I've never found gender issues. I know what my strengths are as a woman compared to a man, and at times I will use that because I might be a better listener, or, you know, certain things that might happen within the environment if it was all a male boardroom, for example. But I don't see that there's any battle going on there. I've found that it's been totally equal, and you just use everything that you have, your team, and I think for me, Women's Day and what it signifies to me would be more about having our sort of almost internal chat, not saying, you know, that's them and this is us, but it's more of a confidence within ourselves, saying, no, be ambitious, try. What's the worst thing you could do? You can make a fool out of yourself. You'll probably learn a lot from that. I make a fool out of myself all the time, and I don't mind it at this stage. I've got to a point where I'm used to, or I accept that with every success, there's a failure too. And I've come to terms with that, and it doesn't panic me anymore. So I go, okay, one step forward, half step back. That's the way it is. That's how you climb the mountain. And you concentrate on day to day, but you also look at your scheduling over the week, over the month, over the year, and you're very organized. And I think that these are the skill sets, and then the main part, I think, for women is go on, just try.
Give it a go.
Just try.
Give
just
it a
try.
go. Do you know what? We're just about coming to the end. I just wanted to ask each of you if there was One piece of advice that you would give to your younger self, that you would have for people listening here, something you wish you'd known maybe a little earlier, what would it be? If I can start with you, Fionnuala, what would you say?
I think, everybody can be a mentor. So, you talk about mentoring and sponsorship, but look for feedback from everybody, from the most senior person you come into contact with, because I can guarantee you're going to get something you knew reinforced with something you didn't know. And so every opportunity along the way to look for feedback and really absorb it, right? So not like
go out and look for your feedback.
Go out and look for your feedback, yeah.
Danielle?
I think not feeling bad about having to be selfish sometimes. I think we have a tendency to feel guilty a lot. Guilty
That's
as
very
mums,
interesting.
guilty as wives, guilty as loads of different reasons. And I think that sometimes I would have benefited by being a little bit more selfish at times. And it doesn't mean that I was a bad person for doing that. It was just what was required.
So don't be afraid to be selfish. Laura, what would you...
Don't let being young hold you back. So if you're young with a really great idea, just go for it. Nobody's going to be waiting for you to stand forward. Just if you have a great idea, go for it.
That's interesting.
I think I was too loyal. I think women can be too loyal. I think I stayed too long. I stayed 12 years in one company. And I think I didn't know my worth. So I would say, know your worth and don't be stupidly loyal, even though loyalty is a lovely trait. And I think I should have moved on and tried different things and maybe gone to some other companies to expand my own portfolio.
That's it. It's not unlike Danielle's in some way.
Yeah.
Minister, what advice would you
I would
have?
say find out as much as you can about your business as early as you can. And don't be afraid to talk to the leaders in the area that you're working in, because most leaders are delighted to talk to you, to share their information, their experience, to talk to you about the journey. So find out and then see if that's where you want to go. But talk as much as you can, get as much information from people. Use mentors.
Absolutely. Well, listen, fascinating advice and really interesting to hear you all talk. Thank you so much for being here this morning. So, Fionnuala, Danielle, Laura, and Minister Francis Fitzgerald. Thank you all very much.